Okay, great. We've started. Thank you.
So innovative. Are there any other questions for me? I have two people that are on back-to-back on February 21st and 22nd. And if you are on that as well, please email me or text me so I can make sure.
Before we get started, why don't I have each one of you pull up your clinical schedule and count how many days you have. Let's do that first while Mary's here. Mary, hang on just 5 minutes. So everybody start with that, because last time we had somebody at the end say, oh, I'm on blah, 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 when Mary had asked people to do this in the beginning. So let's do it right now and see if everybody's got 12. If everybody's got 12, that's one thing. If it's just a few, that's another. So let's do that first.
Hey, Mary, I also noticed that one of the semester 1 students got pulled from the Saturday on my floor and got moved to 3WC, a different floor. So there's now 3 semester 3 students on the floor and 2 semester 1 students. And then on the other floor, there's now 2 semester 3 students and 3 semester 1 students.
Yeah, I think that's okay. We're just trying to.
So just count,
That
you
was
guys, count
difficult.
up so Mary can get back to her business.
I had,
She's got plenty.
we had some incoming students at the last minute have to back out. So we had to do a lot of last minute rearranging. Imagine how fun. The clinical schedule is very challenging for sure.
Okay.
Mary and Linda, were you in part of the email that Michelle sent? We had to confirm our clinical days. Everybody, she sent the email. We all had to count our med surge days, our Peds rotations, and our maternity. We had to email.
There's the Google Drive that she had us go on and put in numbers.
So does everybody in this class have 12 clinical days for med surge?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and you have 4 maternal newborn days,
Yes.
Yes.
and you have 3 Peds days.
Yes.
Now, the person that just said they had 2 back-to-back, is that 12 included? Is that included with the 12 days that you have?
That's the extra one.
Okay, so then you don't have 12 days. You have 13 days? That's what I'm saying. Does anybody have more than 12 days, or has everybody got 12 and that student has 13?
I guess it's just her. I don't.
I
Okay, so
posted
there's
the
just-
document that she had us sign where we counted all of our shifts. I posted.
And
that
you
in the
did
chat.
state in that document you had 12 days, is that correct?
Everybody stated they had 12 days.
Except for the one student who has 13. Well, Mary, maybe that we have to look back and see if that was the amount of days. Count the hours and see if that makes it correct for the amount of hours that were required. Because if not, I'm sure they'd appreciate not having 12 days. I don't know.
Yeah, let me look into that.
All right, let Mary go back and check on that and we'll get started with what we have to do.
Well, that person put 12 on the Google Drive. So
Soli, you put 12, but you have 13?
Yeah, I just realized that I should.
Yeah, that's not correct.
Yeah, but I put a note there. Actually, did you see that note?
Okay, Mary, tag you're it. You got to get on that. I don't know what the outcome of that will be, except for maybe you guys will get removed 2 days, or we'll get to remove the last 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll figure it out though.
Yeah, this
We have a lot of
wasn't-
work to do.
Thanks for sharing this, Justin. This wasn't shared with me, so I just accessed it. Now I can see what's going on. Okay, we'll
Thank you,
figure it out.
Monica. That was a good find.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I have a quick question before you go, Mary. On the new schedule for our clinicals, I guess last semester we were able to see who was our clinical instructor. In the new schedule, I couldn't really see that.
Yeah, there's a CI link But I'm gonna go through and look at both schedules and I'm gonna put the clinical instructor underneath. It's
No,
That's
no,
a whole nother project. That's gonna take you some time.
they'll
So if you
reach
guys
out
think
to
you
us.
have stuff to do. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
Do you guys see the link? It says CI schedule. If you click on that, I know it's kind of, it's old school. It's the way they used to do it. You have to click on the link and then find your CI on that day.
I just added that link to our chat as well.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Who's my IT guy? That Justin's my IT guy.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
get a
Justin.
few. Yeah, this class is pretty amazing. Very innovative.
That
Okay,
makes me
guys, have an
happy.
awesome.
I got a recorder, that's Bear, and I got
Okay.
Justin's my IT. I'm writing
Yeah.
this stuff down.
So I'll see you guys all for our lecture on Thursday for maternal newborn, Thursday at 9. But if you have anything, then just reach out to me, email me or text me, okay?
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks,
All
Mary.
right, have an
Thank you.
awesome day. Bye.
Oh, now where were we, guys? Oh, we've got this syllabus business to look at. Let's make it nice and big. Oh, that was weird. Hold on. You guys can see our syllabus? There we go. As you can see, I'm a fan of New York, and I know some of you went to New York over the break, and that makes me super happy. You get extra credit for that. I did too. It was fun. It was cold, but it was fun. So all those clinical hours that she just talked about, you guys just talked about, some of you have 12, one has 13, you're supposed to have 10, and it's all combined in with our 37 lab skill hours. She's going to look at that because those are all factored in. And the fact that you're not doing those student-led assignments is a big thing, because I was one that was not a fan of it. I didn't let my group do it. I did it myself. And not because I don't trust students. It's because I feel like it's our job to guide you and give you the nurse that I think will work well with you, the patient population that I think you'll work well with for the area that you're in, etc. And if you start at 6 in the morning, oftentimes the nurses do not have that schedule ready for you. So you have to improvise. You have to get students ready. And having a student walk in there and not have the assignments ready throws your whole day off, freaks you out. You're already nervous. Clinical is a stressful time, and I understand that very well. Clinical is stressful for some students. Some students just fly in there and they're just fine. They don't have a problem with clinical. They don't stress with clinical. They just do it. Others are up the night before feeling very anxious. They get sick to their stomachs. They have all this kind of drama and nonsense. You get through it and you figure it out. But I don't feel like adding stress to that is an important thing to do. So where it says here, we've got a 5.5 unit class. That's why there's so much stuff. It says you have 162 hours. That's a lot of hours, man. But 45 hours is your actual lecture time. Clinical 125 and lab is 37. Like Mary said, in lab, we are going to be doing the IV starts. That's going to make a big difference for semester 3 to even get it mastered in semester 3. So when you go right into 4, you're just starting IVs wherever needed. And starting IVs is kind of fun. I've been doing it, well, since I was a nurse, but I've been doing it more the last 2 years because I do the infusions out at Goleta Valley. And I've really learned a lot of good techniques for really, really sick people that have no veins at all, or for people that are super robust and it's, really easy to do. I do home infusions and, this one patient that I have, super easy to do, really kind of unnecessary, these infusions that he's getting, but I just work there. I don't know. It's up to him, but there are a lot of good, easy techniques out there and I can teach you those. So I'm kind of excited for that. And then of course, when you get to maternal newborn, that population is generally a well population. So they've got great veins to start with. So you guys will get a pretty good experience. And then when you're done in December, after the big party, you start working, you're not afraid to start IVs. I work with nurses a lot. that are experienced nurses, and the area of nursing that they went into doesn't give them that opportunity to start IVs. So they had very little opportunity and they shy away from it. They will say, oh, let's call somebody from next door to start the IV. And I said, no, we're not calling anybody. You're trying it. Because the more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's how I feel about skills. And every clinical instructor that you get is going to be a little bit different. They have the autonomy to teach their group. I mean, they can't change the whole program. But as far as skill surfing, we used to do that years ago. Students used to just come and try to get skills from every different student. You really have to focus on your patient as a whole. So doing that makes a big difference for the patient and for your learning. But sometimes, yes, there are opportunities to share some skills. So, and don't forget, it's not just a skill bank, it's a person. They don't want to have all these different people running in, rolling in on them and, you know, trying this and trying that on them. Maybe sometimes you could have another student go in with you and maybe witness what you're doing or assist you with what you're doing. And it doesn't make that patient feel like, oh, just because I have all this stuff going on, they're just going to have a revolving door and people coming in and trying all this stuff on me. We're not doing that either. So there's a lot that goes on. Anyway, let's see, our course description, you know, semester 3 gets a little more dicey. It gets a little more difficult. You're going to have a lot of stuff to do. And generally what I talk about, the pathophys, the areas of illness, the type of patients that you're going to get, I always bring it back to the bedside. What are you going to do? Hopefully you've already done your pathophysiology, you've already done your anatomy and physiology, and you know this part, you know this stuff. That area of these classes should just be solely a refresher course for you, just to discuss it. You should know the anatomy of the patient. You should know the physiology of the patient. And I don't teach anatomy and physiology. My focus is you as a nursing student and how you're going to take care of these patients with these conditions. So we do meet on Mondays. Monday's a long day for us, but I generally get you through it pretty quickly. I'll tell you week to week what's going to be due, why we're doing it. I don't like a lot of busy work. That's one thing you'll know about me. And as we go down, it says here, the syllabus is subject to revision without prior notice. So keep looking at it. I'll tell you if I change something.
Sorry, Linda, the syllabus says 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m.
About there. Yeah.
A 20-hour day or
Uh-oh, where does it say that?
14 and a half hour day.
Don't you want to hang out with me that long? Let's fix that.
It
That was
sounds
a
like
mistake.
Okay. And then it
And
says,
it's usually until, Bear, it's usually until 11, but we put that because sometimes I let you just dip out early. Also, because you and I are going to be together. Hold on one second. Excuse me. Also, because you're going to be with me all morning on Mondays, you'll see in the planner, we go right into pediatrics. Sometimes we're done with our med-surg and I say, stay where you are. You don't have to get out, jump into the other classroom. We'll just stay where you are and we'll go straight into peds. It just depends on what we're doing that day. Also, Student Nurse Association is at 2 o'clock today. If you're interested in that, which it's a fun group, it's a fun club, and it does look good on your resume. We do a lot of stuff to help get ready for the semester 4s, to get ready for graduation. I had a group of students from last semester come that were 3s and 2s and help with the graduation, and they did such a great job. The director took them out to the boat, to the harbor for lunch, and it was good. They were good. They got to see what graduation was like, and it gave ideas. So hopefully, if you participate in the Student Nurse Association, you see the raffles that we do and how we try to earn money for graduation. We give money to the community. We give scholarships to students. We do a lot. So hopefully we're getting back into it. When it was face-to-face, it was a lot more. We did a new student luncheon. We did graduation breakfast. We did graduation celebration. And We had a lot of little mini fundraisers for every season, every occasion, but we can't do that because we're virtual, and you know, it made it a little difficult, but we did pull off the raffle and it went super well. We made enough money for graduation. So we're hoping to do that again. That's at 2:00 today. But as I was saying, thanks for helping me fix that. I don't want you for 14 hours. I like you guys, but not that much. We come, and because we're all together for the morning, sometimes it goes faster than other days. Sometimes not. We have to take all the time we need. Once we're talking and talking and talking, I say, oh, sorry, I went over the time. Go take a quick 10. There's that too. So please read your syllabus. It gives you the objectives. It tells you what we're studying. It tells you endocrine is a big one. Cardiac is a big one. These are all the areas that you need to understand pretty well because you're taking care of patients and you're on the front line. It's you and the patient. There's nobody else between you at that moment. So if you see something, there's something you have to address, you get right out there. Let me go back real quick where it says renal. Now, where is our renal? It must be here somewhere. I don't know. Let's see, neuro.
And is there a link to that meeting you're talking about?
Yeah, it's on the announcements. There's a link. So when we have renal, we used to be able to go into the dialysis center, okay? We used to go in and spend a day there, and that gave you the hours that are required in XYZ. But because of the pandemic, we don't go into the dialysis center, and we don't go into the cancer center either. So those two things, we had to make a little amendment, meaning that you're going to write a paper. It's a short paper, okay? I'm going to go to that in 1 second. So renal and oncology, it's a short paper. I'm going to go to that right now, but I'm going to show you one more thing first. There's your book. I hope you all have it. It's important because you need to read it, and you need to read it every week, because if we don't talk about it in class, it's in the reading and you get quizzed on it. This is this might change a tiny bit. Mary was looking at it, but we did the written assignment that we're going to go to right now. It's a 10 points per paper. There's 2 papers, one on oncology and one on renal, because we can't do those visits. The quizzes, they're fast and furious. After the second week, they're every week until we're done. We have a midterm, and then we have a final. Our ATI, which she talked about, was we have our farm ATI, and you have a practice A or B due before that, and then we'll talk about your peds in the other class. But it used to be all these different weird points. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a second. She fixed it down here. Let me see. Not here. Okay, so she fixed it to where you have to do the pretest in order to take the test. That doesn't give you points. That's just a requirement. You do a pretest and a remediation in order to do your ATI. So I hope everybody's listening pretty clear on this one. If you get a 3 off the bat out of the gate, you get 20 points. You do not have to remediate if you get a 3. That's the goal. I don't want you to have to remediate. If you get a 2, you have to remediate, and ATI gives you the instructions, and you get 15 points. You don't have an option to remediate or not. You get 0 points if you don't remediate. If you get a level 1 or below, you get 10 points and you have to remediate, and that is also not an option. You don't get, what was happening in the semesters prior is somebody would get a 3, they'd get their points, and somebody would get a 1. They'd remediate and get the same as the person that got the 3, and that's not fair. You get a 3, you don't have to remediate, you get the full points. Level 2, you get a 15, mandatory remediation, you get 15 points. 1, you get 10 points, and you have to remediate. So that's how it worked out. You sign this contract about that you've gone over the policies, and you get that back to us. That gets uploaded with your pretest that you do for the ATI. I'm going to go quickly to those papers that paper that I told you about, those 2 papers. One of the students gave this to me last night because the Google Doc that it was on was eliminated when the Canvas page crossed over. So we couldn't find it anywhere. But for the renal paper, it is due before the renal quiz, and it's put in your planner when it's due. And the reason being, like I said, I don't like busy work, and this will help you get the information that you need for this area. Okay, so it says each student's required to research an oncology patient or a renal patient. It includes what you need, the diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment, include your findings. When I say this, a lot of times people will just randomly pick any topic for a renal patient, any topic for an oncology patient, and write about it. And that's okay if it's going to help you get an understanding about the topic that we went over. But the best thing to do, the very best thing to do, is if you've had an oncology patient, grab that plan of care and research that patient for your paper. And please, I don't need a manifesto. 1 page is enough. It says do not exceed 2,000 words. But one thing that students do every semester, and I want to really stress this to you right now, is make sure when you see the description, here's the written assignment, and then it says the APA format, that you cite your references in the body of the paper. So a student wrote a beautiful paper. It was enough. It was under the 2,000 words, so I don't have to read a billion words. And they had their references. I know they researched it well. They did a great job, but they didn't get 10 points because they didn't even reference their sites in the body of the paper. And that's a super important thing, and it tells you what to do here. The APA publications, if you don't have that APA format in your computer already, my advice is, and I never used the book when I did my bachelor's and my master's programs, I used a template. You just type right into it. It worked perfectly. It was great. I don't even remember the name of it, but you can research that yourself. The APA template, it just goes right into your computer. You open up a document and you type right into it. It does everything for you. It's great, and it allows you the ability to do that scholarly paper. So these are just 2 things, 2 little papers that you have to write. They are not to bog you down or make you do anything you don't want to do, but they will help you. They will help you when you're actually working on that quiz, when you get questions for that on your midterm or on your final. In those 2 areas, they do help. And I'm really bummed that we can't get back in there this semester. We're trying. Maybe next semester they're going to allow us back in as a clinical experience. So you don't have to write a paper, but that's not going to help you guys. All right. It's almost 9 o'clock. Take 10 minutes, come back, and we will go into the introduction, reading list, etc. Bye, guys.
Linda. Hi, I have a quick question on the paper. I was looking at the description of it, and it said to use the APA 6th edition, where the current edition is the 7th edition, and there have since been some changes. I just wanted to check up on that.
You don't even have to use the book. I just said you can use a template. You can use a template. If you want to use a book, use a book. The most current will be best.
We can use the most current edition and the requirements.
Of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do the Student Nurse Association, and I have this I had to change last night because it said 4 grandkids. I have 8 grandkids and 1 more on the way. So this is just a quick reminder, like I talked to you before, just make sure that you do your reading. You know that every week you look at that planner, because I changed the planner. I can change it tonight for tomorrow. I don't try to do that to you guys. Just remember, there's a lot of things that we need to do during the semester, and things change all the time. New York never changes. It just gets better. How's that? If you've done your reading, that helps. Also, those videos that are in there, there's a few that I'll play during class. But if you look at the videos before that, oh, there's a nice big dog. I like dogs. If you look at the videos before, you kind of know what we're going to talk about. There's one, she's a little Southern belle. She's super annoying, her voice, but she's so good. She has so much information. Her information is excellent. And she has all the information that you're going to need for each area. She's really good. There's always additional resources. Also, I want to mention too that it's not in here. That's for lectures. Some of these are super dated. Look at them though. City College and Cottage Hospital are not the only places that you're going to practice. You're going to practice in a lot of other places, I hope, and travel and go to great places and go work in big cities. Oh, there's a kitty. And I feel like it's super important to get a lot of different views. I mean, obviously, we're going to have you do things in one way, because if we tried 20 different ways, that wouldn't work. But I also want you to see other ways of doing things, and there's a lot of stuff out there. So let's keep an open mind to stuff like that. The reading list is very huge, just so you know. I want to show you. It's a big list. But it shows you. Unit 1 has all these chapters. Like I said, is it possible for you to do that when we're done with class right now and be ready for the next one? I mean, some students do it. One student said, I use audio, I go running, I listen, I do this. He was like some kind of supernatural student that I don't understand. But not everybody can do that. People have kids, people have jobs, people have lives that doesn't allow that. My recommendation is you open up those books and you highlight the information, as much information as you can. That's the best way to study for this class and for semester 2, because this is pretty much what you're going to get. Semester 4. This is pretty much what you're going to get. You just get, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 slides and say, okay, we're getting tested on that tomorrow. So study up by. So you are pretty much getting spoon-fed in this semester, but be sure to recognize that I know it's a lot of stuff. I couldn't sit there and read all this very quickly like that. But I used to just open up each chapter and take notes or highlight the areas, look through it, pull out, points, and do that outline. That's the best you can do. There's chapters for every area that we're studying. It just says review for the midterm, everything you did before we started. And then oncology, immunity, and a final. And I will tell you this, it goes by so quickly. I say it every semester, and students are we didn't believe you. That isn't something that I thought was going to happen this fast. We're already going to be graduating in the semester. Luckily, you guys get the summer to relax and study ATI all summer long. But some students are diligent and they do that, and other students don't even look at it, come through, pass, and are great nurses. It just depends on the individual. There's always the student that will question what you say. You just said something, they'll ask you again, they'll ask you 3 or 4 times the same thing you just said. There's students that just need a little more time or a little more information or a little more whatever you want to call it. So be patient with them. Don't be mean, because I see eyes rolling every semester when somebody asks stuff and their eyes go, Some people just got to know. You just got to help them out. Help them out a little bit. Help a sister or brother out, and it all gets paid forward. How's that? We looked at our paper. Trust me, every single semester since I've been doing this, and that proctorio testing and all that, online ATI, online quizzes, I get a student on my text because I get up at 5 in the morning every single day. It's not letting me in. I can't take the test. It's not letting me in. It says I need a code. Can you give me the code? I will tell all of you right now, there is no code. There's a glitch on your end. What needs to happen is you need to clean out your cookies, clean out your computer, and you need to close down and start all over again. Start over. They'll say, nope, it says I need a code. You don't need a code. There is no code. There's no code. No code. But one of you is going to ask me for it because you do every single time. Sorry, I can't get in. I can't do my ATI. It says I need a code. You guys, I promise you, Proctorio has some weird little thing in their program that if you have cookies or if you have XYZ or something weird on your computer or whatever it is, it always throws you that, it throws you to that like screen that says you need a code. And then it tells you straight up, there is no code. Proctorio says there is no code. There is no code to give a student. Okay, so then why every semester that happens? I really can't answer that. I don't know. But just remember that you are responsible for cleaning up your computer. You're responsible for that hard drive, and you are responsible for making sure that you're up and running when you have a test, when you have a quiz, when you have an ATI. This computer testing policy is important, and it's on for Canvas, but now it's for every quiz and every test that I give. So you just have to make sure you know a few things. One student in the past semesters, I can't remember which one it was, I remember the student was wearing glasses, and he or she happened to be looking on the telephone at the same time, and Proctorio caught the student because the cell phone reflection was in the glasses. Just don't cheat. I don't like cheaters. I'd rather you get a bad grade and we work on that than to have to try to fix a cheating student, because if you cheat, you just get kicked out. And I'm sorry, but 2 semesters of your life wasted? No way. I can't have that. I know how hard you guys have worked. I know, because I did it too. I remember it, and it wasn't easy. Just be hopeful that you know that the ADN program is the most difficult. A BSN is way less difficult, and an MSN is way less difficult than the ADN. The ADN is the hardest. The next 2 programs that you guys do, you will breeze through them. And I can promise you that with my hand up. You will breeze through them. They're not difficult. You do have to use that APA format. And like the one student said, do we use this? Can you use a newer one? Obviously, you can use a newer. You use whatever is current is fine. That's not a problem. But like I said, template, important. Use a template. Don't click outside of your test. And some students will freak out because they got kicked out. Or something moved and they clicked out by accident. I know you're not cheating. I trust you, and I trust everybody until I don't. How does that sound? I trust all of you until you burn me once, and then I'll still be here, but then it takes a long time to get back to point A if you burn me. So don't do that. We can have a great working relationship. All right, we're going to talk about lab, and then we're going to go into endocrine. Okay. It says semester 3 lab groups. What I'm going to do when we're done is I'm going to write down everybody's name, and I'm going to make 8 groups, and we're going to get our lab groups put together. They're going to be random groups. They're not going to be, everybody's going to be evenly distributed, and we're going to have groups that are, pretty strong. And if I see a group that has super, super strong students, we might throw all the names back in and mix it up again. But I feel like working in a group, you get so much more work done in the lab, not on projects. Projects, you get ripped off pretty much, I think. because the one smart guy does all the work and then the rest of them just say, yeah, I was there. And the quiet one hides away. But when you're working in the lab, it's different because every single student has to participate. Every single student in the lab has to show the skill. Now for semester 3, let's go over. The first thing we do is we do the blood glucose. Now, you're going to see that insulin quiz online. That has to be done and turned in before you go to the blood glucose class. That's on your own. After we talk about the first, the next couple of hours are endocrine, you're able to do that quiz on your own. And P.S., it's open book. It's 10 free points. Some students only do half of it. I was like, okay, you must not. I loved points. Points were good, and I tried to get everyone I could get. And especially if it's free. They're free. To me, free points are when you have an open book quiz like that. So in order to do our point of care, which I'll go back to the planner, we go to the lab. First week we go. That's not tomorrow. Remember that? Somebody will probably ask me, please remember that. We don't go to the lab tomorrow and do that little email thing that you got. We don't do that. We're not doing that. Next Friday, we go from 8 to 12. Okay, we are doing that. Just remember, I can start right at 8 if people get there a few minutes early. Okay? We'll get it done. If we finish early, am I holding you hostage there? No, I'm absolutely not holding you hostage there. You can go when we're done. But I think the first week you do take those few hours because first we do that dosage calculation quiz, and then we go on to do our advanced IV skills. We demonstrate them, we go through them. You all get signed off that day. Everybody finishes. All of you have done those skills, haven't you? Let me see heads shaking. Yep, good. From now until 2 weeks, if there's any open lab time at all, you can go and practice. I feel like we'll have time while we're in the moment to practice. Just write down exactly what you need to do to meet that objective and you'll be fine. Okay. We'll do that in the lab and then let's go here. So that's what this lab group is about. I don't have them written out yet because I had to see what you guys looked like first. And you guys look pretty good. Let's see. Let's go to the planner. We're going to do the planner one more time before we actually... Let's make it a little bit bigger for people with older eyes. All right. Look at all these people. I like Dumbo Octopus. That makes me happy. Okay, let's see. So this is today. 11 to 12:30, we do a little intro and talk about our growth and development. And that assignment, you guys get to see my buddy right here on Thursday. And then you have one clinical day. So I don't feel like that's a super overwhelming week for you big semester 3 students. Don't forget, be kind to those semester 1s. They're shaking in their boots and they're scared. So we always want to be kind, pay it forward. Next week, we're going to do more endocrine. We're going to do a little insulin demo. And this pre-test that is on your, I'll show you, is due before Friday, no exceptions uploaded because, let's see, before this Friday. Okay. So here we're going to do dosage calc. We're going to do the advanced IVs. We're going to do a little more endocrine. You're going to have your test. You can start your test today if you want. And then here, 9 to 3, we're going to have the point of care class with the cottage people. You wear your badge because I want you to wear your badge. 2 lab every time, your clinical badge. Now, this is what's going to happen. When you get to lab, you're going to say, I left it in my work bag, my school bag, the dog ate my homework bag, all of that. I've heard everything you could think of. Please don't do that. Keep it with your keys. I don't care what you have to do. I want your badge on you when you go into lab. That's all. Other instructors are requiring students to wear their full uniform into the lab. I was like, no, because then they're going to dirty their uniform and it won't be ready for clinical. I'm not about that. So no. And the other college that I teach at, the BSN students have to wear their full uniform to school, to the lecture. They're all in person at Westmont. They have to wear their full uniform to lab. I said, nope, we're not about that. So don't feel all wrecked because you just have to have your badge with you. That is your pass to get into the lab. When you get up in the morning, you're going to say, oh, it's lab day. Where's my badge? Put it on. I don't care if you have to sleep with it, shower with it, wear your badge. If you need a lanyard, let me know. I'll get some. They have tons of them at Cottage. I don't mind doing that. I'll grab some on Thursday. I'll go downstairs and get lanyards if you want lanyards to keep your badges on. So we do this, the first lab. Oh, there's Melody Barajas looking at that lab. She's soaking it in.
Linda,
And then, who's talking?
this is Jennifer. Can you mark on there that the test is due before the lab on the 10th on the right up on the next page above? It says it's due for lab Friday, but it's the following Friday, correct?
It says insulin demo pre-test is due midnight Thursday. No exceptions. It's before this class. I can write the 10th on there. Yes.
Thank you.
Thursday. 02-10. That help? Yeah, you need that to be able to get into this class. If for some horrible reason you can't come to that, what ends up happening is it delays your ability to do blood glucose checks in the hospital, and we have to set up another time with the hospital while you'll have to go in on your own time to get that class in the hospital. So please come to the lab. It is super important. There'll be 2 classes. We'll be doing insulin injections and insulin pens with half of the class, and the other half will be in with the point of care, and then we'll switch. So it is a full day. It's a long day. Bring your lunch. I'm not sure. I think that the cafeteria is making food, but I think when you bring your lunch, it cuts out time. It helps you get things done. And the lab is a really nice place to be too, by the way. They've really cleaned it up and fixed it up so nicely. And that's our first 3. That's week 3. That's when we get this point of care class. And then it goes on. You get a holiday, no lab that week. And then it's pretty much lab every week until we finish our skills. Meaning, what are our skills for semester 3 now? We have blood glucose checks, insulin administration with the syringe and with the insulin pen. We have blood and TPN administration. We have advanced IV skills. We have, with the advanced IV skills, we have central line dressing changes and PICC line dressing changes. We do that. And now we have the IV starts. So we really don't have a lot of skills. And it is a big class, but if you work in your group of 5, I really feel like you'll get the skills done quickly. If you need more time, that's what I was getting to. Please don't hesitate to go to the tutor and get the help in the beginning of the semester. Don't struggle and fly under the radar for the first half and then be like in panic mode for the last half of the semester. Get it together early. If you feel the slightest bit of struggle, go to the lab, make an appointment, talk to the 2 lab staff, see who the tutors are, and get with a tutor. If you have a smart buddy in class, get with your smart buddy in class. If you don't have a smart buddy in class, that's a bummer, but buddy up with the smart guys. You guys know who they are. There's smart ones in every class, super smart ones in every class. And if you're struggling, my suggestion is hook up with them. Not hook up with them, but get together with them and work with them. They'll help you. Smart people like to share. A lot of them do. And they like to share how smart they are. Just wait and listen. But it will be to your advantage to get started at an early time. Don't wait until the end. Super, super annoying when a student has been flying low under the radar, not getting help, getting very low scores, and then at the end makes it our problem that they're in panic mode because they're not going to pass. If you don't pass the theory part of the class, you can return and take the class over. Yay, because somebody wants to do this class twice. No way. If you don't pass clinical or you get kicked out of clinical, you can't return back to this program. So my point is that isn't, I'm not trying to be threatening or scary at all. That is not my idea at all. It just means get the help early on. Okay. You're going to see this weird little thing at the end of each week. Now, I know all of you know what this is, this adaptive quiz. Questions for your farm ATI. Okay, this is my last point that I'm making before we get going on our endocrine quiz. You get points for those adaptive quizzes every week, but so we're clear, I'm going to open up the grade book. Nobody has grades, so everybody can just like relax and not think that their names are being put out there. All right. Let's see, adaptive quiz number 2. It starts the second week. Okay, I know our tech guy, Bear, is recording this. I'm going to say it to you loud and clear. Okay, everybody listening? Put your hand up if you're listening. The students that I had last semester that are in this class, they know what's up about this. Okay. On the screenshot that you are uploading each week, you have a time frame and you have 3 requirements of that upload. It's 1.25 points. You're saying, I don't care about that. That's not enough points for me to care about. It is enough point. It is enough. It adds up. I'm serious. It's changed people from a C to a B, a D to a C, very important, or a B to an A. Those points, those are free points. What they do every week is give you 25 questions to turn in. Number 1, you upload a screenshot of and what needs to be in this. And some of these students will tell you if it's not in there, you're not getting the points. And I don't care if you did it, because I'm telling you today what needs to be visual to this old lady's eyes. I have good vision up close. I don't need glasses. You have to have your name, the date, 100%, and the subject, farm, on the screenshot. All of those things. In fact, what I can do right now, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pull up somebody's to show you exactly what it looks like. Hold up. Because I have done this many times for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 classes now. And it's super rough because students don't follow the direction. Okay, I'm going to go to Nurse 166, Fall 2022. And there is one student who allowed me to pull this up from them. They said it was just fine. She's my president of the Student Nurse Association, and she's pretty darn good. Where is she? There she is. Hold on. All right. All right, I'm going to share screen. Okay, can everybody see that? Everybody can see this? Okay, here we go. Sorry, you can still see her name, but she doesn't care. On this, it has the student's name, it has 100%, it has the date, and it has the subject, farm, 25 correct answers. That's it.
And
You can
that's
take a
an
screenshot of
overachievement.
that. You can,
But-
excuse me?
sorry, not to be overachiever, but it's okay if we had like 30 questions or 35.
You
as long-
don't need to because you're going to need to do them every week. So 25 is enough. You can practice
But if we have
and
to do
it's
50.
to your advantage. You don't have to turn in. You only need to turn in 25. You can do 100 every week. And you know, the students that got the 3 on their ATI for farm who have done super well on all their ATIs told me that they did farm questions every single day. Now, I know you took farm. I know you took that class in semester 1, and I know it was hard. But when I taught it, there was only 6 rights. Now there's 10 rights. It's like, don't mess up your meds. Just do all the rights. Make sure you're right on that. There's a lot. But the medications are actually a big part of your NCLEX. The generic names are a big part of your NCLEX. Being familiar with what type of meds go where are a big part of your NCLEX. And that's why we do it. I don't do this to torture you. I promise you. I don't. But every week you sitting down after class and saying, okay, I'm going to get it over with right now. I'm going to upload it. I'm going to go to ATI and I'm going to do 25 questions. I think that in farm, there's 400 questions. So getting 100% is not that hard. And it starts to build in your memory what exactly you're going to do, how you're going to start to remember these adaptive quizzes, how you're going to start to remember the names, the type of meds they are, what they're for, what type of patients get them, what kind of parameters there are, if there are any, and it will help you in your practice no matter where you work. I promise you it will. The thing with this is, I'm going to take Myra's name off here. Myra is my buddy, and she said I could use her. The thing with this whole process is you want to make sure that you are keeping fresh in your mind, like every area that we work in. We're going to do endocrine. Remember what meds go with your endocrine patients. You have a renal patient, remember what meds go with your renal patient. Your cardiac patients. Cardiac drugs are always a problem for students because we always get students that make med errors, forget that there are parameters for these drugs, all this sort of stuff. And the bottom line is there is a 0 tolerance policy for med errors. Now, meaning, we're students, we make mistakes. There does not have to be medicine errors, ever. All you have to do is follow your golden rule. You know, as a researcher, you have to show that medication to your clinical instructor. You have to explain why you're giving it. Medications are nothing to take lightly. They could be, you know what, a stool softener. Okay, you're going to soften up that person's stool. But they could also be a cardiac med that could stop a heart. It could also be a diuretic that could create, you know, a cardiac arrest. There's meds that you're going to be giving that are serious, and you need to respect that process. That's the best way that I can describe to you what needs to happen when you're doing med administration. You know, right now, you can write it on an index card and put it on your little clipboard, your little clipboards that you carry. Medications that are counted, medications that are narcotics, that are counted medications, you have to have an instructor before you walk near that Omnicell. An instructor has to be with you. One semester, about 3 semesters back, we got this mass text message, all of us in clinical. If one more person goes to the Omnicell and pulls out a medication without their instructor, they will be removed from the program. We were like, what happened? My students came and bum rushed me like so quickly. What's going on? I was like, I don't know. None of you guys have ever tried to do that. My group was solid. They didn't do that. And I said, something was going on. Students were just going in and getting a Marinol out. A Marinol is a controlled substance. If it's counted, you need your instructor with you. There is absolutely 0 room for a mistake here. Now, I didn't know it was a controlled substance. Then you didn't research it right. So we're way back here where you're missing your steps. You research your meds, you'll know which ones are controlled. Now, I can give you one little tip on surgical trauma where they do a lot of bariatric surgery. Spearmint gum is a controlled substance. You're like, what? Packs of spearmint gum are in the Omnicell and they are a controlled substance. Controlled because if they put a box of gum in the med room, what do you think nurses are going to do with that gum? They're going to take it. So we have to count it. It is a controlled substance, and that's a cute dog. And that is something that I wouldn't say you're getting kicked out because you went to go get the gum for your bariatric patient and you didn't know gum was a controlled substance. But if you see that count number, you stop, cancel, and get out. Or you stand there, shake and shiver and tell your buddy right next to you, please go get the instructor, go get my clinical instructor. I got in without, there's a lot of things you can do to rectify the problem. Just don't make that situation yours. Just make sure that you're being cautious, you're being careful, and that you know when a controlled substance pops up, you have your instructor with you. Is everybody in agreement on that? Put your hand up. Oh, that's a lot of good hands. Thank you. That's just one thing that every semester we had it, but that one semester when that thing came across our screen, everybody's getting kicked out. Anybody gets near that Omnicell without their instructor, everybody panicked in my group. All 6 came to me immediately. I was like, I don't know. It wasn't from me. I don't know what happened. Well, come to find out, there were like 4 narcotics pulled, wrong narcotics pulled without the instructor. Students are just getting ahead of themselves, which it's not hard to do. It isn't hard to do. It happens. So it's a lot. Today's a lot. Semester 3 is a lot, but we're going to try to make it so that everybody gets through and that it's not too much. It's not too bad. All right, before we start, sorry about that. Something just fell underneath my desk. Before we get started on the endocrine, does anybody have any questions about any of these logistics? Speak now or forever hold your peace until the next stop.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to be posting the assignments to the calendar portion of Canvas?
Yes. Karen Shannon is working with me on Wednesday, and we're going to switch everything over. There was as you know, I've told you, is my Canvas page is always super glitchy. I used to do this recording and then upload it to each thing, and then sometimes you get some random weird iCloud weird recording, so I just stopped doing it. I just don't, we have other things to worry about. You guys have fair access to do whatever you want with my courses. I'm not tight with anything. I'll help you with whatever I can, but that's one thing that is really weird with mine, and it'll be here. Wait, let's go to homepage real quick for you, Justin. You'll be able to go like here. Wait, no, sorry. Where is my calendar? There's one extra step that you go to and it goes straight to our calendar. That won't be a problem, but it's not going to happen until Wednesday. So you'll see the change on the Canvas page.
Okay,
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Linda, this is Jennifer. One last question. Our last required lab day is the week of March 30th, correct?
Uh-huh.
As it says on the schedule.
Let's take a look. I don't know. Like I said, it could be more, it could be less, so try not to schedule yourself. Yeah, that one it says required. Try not to schedule yourself for Fridays in case we have a pop-up where we have to go into lab, okay? But also these labs, these Fridays where you don't see anything, there still will be semester 3's open labs. I hope that helps. Why, do you have something planned this week?
No, I just was wondering if I can pick up a shift at work.
Probably so.
Thank you.
So you see we have IV starts. It might take a little longer, IV starts, but if you guys are quick learn, we can get them done. Central line dressing changes are a snap. Blood and TPN are a snap. It's not that much that we have to do. We'll be pretty good. All right, there's 2. Anybody else? You guys are a quiet bunch. You're just still awake, still asleep, I mean. Let's see, I always like to hover over and see who's putting melodies in my. I like to see who's got their name on here. It's kind of cool. All right, let's go to our modules and our endocrine part 1. This is the pretest. You guys can pull this up, print it, start working on it. It's not that hard. In fact, it's pretty easy, and the students get ready to do this before you go into your point of care class. Excuse me. 1 second. Oh my gosh. So that is your pretest. You can start it whenever you like. All right, let's start with our endocrine. We can look at the objectives first and then go to part 1. I can just show you. If you feel like I don't know what I'm doing or I'm getting behind, here are all your objectives for endocrine. And there's a whole bunch of them. They're super simple. It looks like it's a ton. Go over them after. And we're going. That's just a little something extra for you to help you.
Linda, so is that like our study guide then for like the midterm final?
No, I'll
that
give
we
you
could
one. Are you
use? No?
kidding? I give you a nice study guide for every quiz. I say, okay, you're gonna have 10 questions. If I were you, I would study this, and this. And
Would
if
it
you
be-
have a free response question, which I just learned that a couple of semesters ago, what that meant, I tell you what it is. I tell you what to practice, what to study, and what to be ready for. So you guys will be fully equipped for your quizzes and your midterms, your exams, etc. Does that sound fair? Fair enough? All right. The diabetic patient. Okay, you guys. You guys have been in semester 1 and 2, and you've been in the clinical setting. You don't go to nursing homes. You go straight into acute care. So please raise your hand if you've never had a diabetic patient. Didn't think so. I would say 90% of your patients are diabetic. And what they're in the hospital for is secondary to their diabetes or has been exacerbated because of diabetes. Diabetes is no mild condition. It isn't. And some people who take it very serious and adhere to a very stringent lifestyle live a long time with not very much residual from it. But people who don't, they suffer from many, many things secondary to diabetes. Diabetes is brutal. Any one of you that's taking care of a patient, the required reading is just as brutal. Now, there's a lot. It's a lot. Look through it. Take time to study. It says here the glucometer testing is a required skill for us. It is. And it's not a difficult procedure. We do it on all our patients except for the neonates, the newborns. We used to be able to do it, but another school, not our school, another school went in and instead of the edge of the heel, which you go around, you put your thumb in the center of the foot and you can go around to do the heel stick. They went right in the center and injured an infant. So the hospital said no more students doing heel sticks on infants. So there's that. No more rectal temps on infants either, which Mary will tell you, because a student just went in with a temperature and no probe to do a rectal temp on an infant and, could have perforated that infant. So we don't do a couple of things because of mistakes, but not from our program. So, we're still pretty good. We're good. Cottage and Lompoc have different machines. So if you are going to be doing your clinicals in Lompoc, look at, he's got a cute little child. See how easy I get distracted? That is a cutie. Hi, baby. Oh my goodness. Look at that little cutie. Okay, see, it makes this stuff worth it, right, guys? He's got that cute little kid on his lap. Good daddy. Okay, so you'll go to Lompoc and they will give you their own. You still need to have our class for Cottage because you will do P&P at Cottage. You will do maybe semester 4. Some of you will get moved around, but Lompoc system, they will give you an orientation and get you badged into that and scanned into that. So that's a whole separate thing. When you're doing a glucose test on a patient, you let your primary nurse know, you let your clinical instructor know, and it says be prepared to know when you would need to use the glucometer with your patient. One thing that's different is when the patient is in isolation, we have everything outside the room, get everything outside the room. You go in with the glucometer, you take the test, and then you clean it and come out. There's that. But it says you'll find more information in the semester 3 binder located in the lab. The lab staff is updating those binders, but there are a lot of tips and points in those. And this guy is super overzealous and he's kind of cute, but we're not going to watch him right now. He is, I would rather you see the people from Cottage show you how to do this. So let's go.
He's got a nice accent.
He's got a nice accent. Yes, he does. The one annoying gal doesn't. I'm going to make you listen to her once today, but she's super cute. It's just that accent can get kind of rough after a while. Type 1 versus type 2 diabetes, you'll take care of both. You'll take care of both types of patients. A thing to remember would be that in the hospital now anymore, you'll have patients that have, their glucose check on their arm. They have a little meter that's connected to them through a needle and it's stuck on their arm. They use a smartphone to check it, that kind of thing. We still are required to do finger sticks on these patients, and they are able to administer their insulin, but we have to keep checking on it. And there's a whole form that they sign that allows them to do their own insulin administration. And when this happens, it kind of creates a little bit of nervousness for our nurses, because we are responsible for the patients. And I hope this makes sense to all of you, that if their insulin pump or their glucometer that is connected to their arm malfunctions, they are still our patient. And we're responsible for their numbers, their readings, their med administrations, all of it. So that makes a big difference when you've got somebody who has, let's see, a 28-year-old who's been a diabetic since they were 4 years old, has managed their own insulin, and are in the hospital for a tib-fib fracture. Like, yeah, I'm good on my insulin. Don't mess with me. Don't stop. Yes, but we are still responsible for that patient as a whole. And we want to make sure that, because insulin pumps do malfunction. They malfunction. Things can happen. Patients can get very low or very high and not know it. The stress of being in the hospital can cause a problem as well. So there's that. And this is just, these pictures that I show you, I love pictures because they help me remember, but it just is showing you like the glycogen and protein breakdown causing ketoacidosis. Muscles are unable to use glucose due to the low insulin. It goes from the pancreas, decrease insulin into the blood vessel, increase glucose due to low insulin. It shows you the cycle. It shows you going at both ways. And then there's the type 2. Here's the thing. For type 1, you didn't choose that. But for type 2, sometimes it comes on obesity. It's an inheritance and other factors leading to this insulin resistance. Now, type 2 is also a type of diabetes that sometimes can be controlled just orally, and we'll talk about that. Type 1, the signs and symptoms, oftentimes the symptoms cross over. So you see symptoms here: polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, you lose weight. You're incredibly susceptible to infections all the time. You cut yourself, it doesn't heal. You're tired all the time. The three through 3 Ps, the polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia, are things that kind of trigger in somebody's mind. And, increased urination, you're thirsty all the time, you're starving all the time, and you're still losing weight, you're eating a lot. It says the peak incidence for this would be from 10 to 15 years. My little niece was diagnosed when she was 4. And I was in New York, and my niece texted me and said, the baby's in the hospital, and they say she has type 1 diabetes. And I was like, oh gosh. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. So it says, How does this happen? Nobody knows. It says autoimmune, genetics, virus. Okay, but the main answer or reason people will say it's idiopathic, fancy way of saying they have no idea. We don't know. We don't have any diabetes in our family, none in my brother's wife's family, and she's got a type 1 diabetic little girl who's now, I think, 6 or 7 years into it, 6 years maybe, and she's excellent. The little girl wears her little monitor. She has her insulin pump. She knows when she's high. She knows when she's low. Her mother opened an in-home daycare school for children that's just like flourished because she couldn't trust anybody with this type 1 diabetic child. She couldn't work in Santa Barbara and live up north without being able to manage her child. So it's a lot. It's a lot for a family. And we talk about it here briefly, but we'll talk about it again in pediatrics. Just remember, for the new pediatric patient with type 1 diabetes, it is so much for that family to digest, so much. And we will talk about that. But an autoimmune something triggers genetically susceptible people to elicit this autoimmune response against themselves. Family history, it says ethnicity high risk for diabetes type 1 for Caucasians. The climate, northern climate, genetically predisposed over southern climates. There's all these different things that here a virus can trigger it. German measles, Coxsackie mumps. A less risk are rubella or influenza. So I feel like those are kind of just generalizations. Do we really know? But who knows? We do dive into it a little bit deeper soon. For the type 2 diabetic, signs and symptoms, polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, obesity, recurrent infections, and fatigue. All of them are similar to the last one. We just looked for a type 1 except for the obesity. This person's eating up a storm but gaining weight, and the type 1 diabetic is eating and thirsty and is just losing. Type 2, here's the thing, a sedentary lifestyle. Familial tendencies, average age 50 years, history of an increased blood pressure, fatigue, low energy, obese, recurrent infections, polyuria, polydipsia, and a fasting glucose of greater than 126. Now, when you look, just pull up the next one. No. When you look at the type 2 diabetic, you often say they came into the hospital and they had a huge trauma, maybe a huge car accident or a huge surgery, and all of a sudden their blood sugars are elevated. This could be caused by the trauma of that actual incident. And it could just be transient. It could be fleeting. They're now, gone tomorrow. But if there is a fasting glucose that's greater than 126, it's something to be alarmed about. It definitely is, because you haven't had anything to eat and your blood sugar is already increased. Okay. Sedentary lifestyles. It's kind of a double-edged sword for some of these patients because you say, you are pre-diabetic. Let me see if this next slide shows that. No, it doesn't. Okay, these are just what the differences are. For type 1, I'm going to talk about the type 2 diabetic in 1 second. Let me just show you this very quickly. Type 1, the body cannot produce insulin. It will always be insulin dependent. Type 2, the body produces too little insulin and or is able to respond to it. So, and of course it goes to these risk factors and how it's rising, and usually diagnosed in children or young adults for that, usually diagnosed for an older person at the age of 50 or so. Those are differences between those, but no, I really had some, just a second. Okay. We'll go back to this when we talk about your class, but hold on a second. Oh, I want to show you something really quick. We will come back. I won't miss any of this, don't worry. For the type 2 diabetic or the type 1, you as the nurse, you as the clinical, the clinician, the student, this is kind of a picture that I always have in my mind, even now. This is an old picture that always sets in my mind because I've always started my clinical day at 7 in the morning. You finish at 7 p.m. And these are the rise and falls of your insulin blood glucose levels. And they are generally based upon your meals. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. So if you look at that in your head, you're thinking, they're low right now. I check their insulin. I check their blood glucose. I have my insulin ready to give. Their breakfast is coming. Same thing at lunch, same thing at dinner. If they're AC and HS or at bedtime. So AC and HS would mean, let me go back. AC and HS would mean that you are checking blood glucose before each meal while they're in the hospital. Now, like I said, if it's a transient episode of an increased blood glucose, it could have happened because they had a big surgery and that was a big trauma to the system. They had a big accident. They've had a huge trauma in their life, depending on what it was. And their blood glucose became elevated. And they're going, I don't know why I'm getting insulin. I'm not a diabetic. Okay. They could be getting TPN because they had abdominal surgery, and we'll talk about TPN and why there is a blood glucose check ACE all day, three times a day and once at bedtime. So there are different instances why you will be doing blood glucose checks. There are different instances where you're going to have to measure when and where you're going to do it. You're going to have a meal waiting for you. I know that when you've been in clinical, you've heard dietary do the vocera to the nurse. I have a tray at the table for, a counted carb diet. At the nurse's station for the patient, is it okay to deliver it? The reasoning behind all of that is you as the nurse or the student nurse are in charge of that person's blood glucose check and their insulin. Now, I have students that are afraid to dive in at first because they think that it's super scary. It's not. It's not scary. You go in, you check the glucose, you say, oh, they're going to need insulin. They're going to need 3 units of the insulin pen. The insulin pen is the greatest thing that's ever been invented for a diabetic in the history of diabetes, in my opinion. Now, when you get into lab, you're going to say, here's the vial. I'm pulling up 1 unit of insulin. It is so hard to see that. It is so hard to pull it up. It is so hard to get the bubble out of that tiny little skinny syringe. It is so difficult. And we are all strong, able-bodied clinicians. So my point being, if you are a brittle diabetic in your 60s, how hard is it going to be for you to see that? Because, your eyesight gets bad when you're diabetic. Pull up, get that bubble out, pull up the right amount and give it to yourself. It's hard. It's hard for us. Imagine it being hard for them. Imagine them not getting the accurate amount of insulin ever, which I believe they never do. I can't see them beating on that syringe with pens like we do and trying to get that little tiny bubble out and administering the proper amount of insulin. Okay. The pen is exquisite, and we will talk about the pen. But what I'm trying to make a point across to you is it isn't a difficult skill. It just takes a lot of mind power. You want to make sure you know what their glucose range is. You want to make sure that you know that they've ordered their diet. If they are not eating and they don't want a tray and they're not feeling it and their glucose, let's say their blood glucose is 130, or 125, and the stable range is 170 to 120. And the coverage is a unit of insulin, but they're not going to eat, and they're not, there's all these things that take into consideration for that sliding scale on that particular patient. We definitely are going to consult our primary nurse. We're not going to take this on all ourselves. And when you are the primary nurse and you get into practice and you understand what all the repercussions could be, and let's say the patient just says, I just don't want to eat right now. I don't want my insulin yet. I would like to wait. Maybe they don't eat at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning at home. Maybe they had a rough night. They barfed all night. They're tired. They want to just sleep a couple of hours and start their day at 10 in the morning. Is it going to mess up your time grid? It certainly is. And that really wrecks students. But your time grid isn't the most important thing for that patient at the moment. I know it is for us, but it isn't for them. So you just make a little adjustment on your time grid. Use your time grids, by the way. Make a little adjustment on your time grid so that that patient gets the best out of their day. Okay. Normal insulin secretion, this is just a little refresher for you, produces beta cells in the islets of Langerhans, released continuously into the bloodstream in small increments with larger increments after food intake, and it stabilizes your range from 70 to 120 if you're in good shape. That's just a little generalization. And here we have the insulin, the pancreas, fat, glucose, and the muscle, the liver, the fat. Insulin is secreted by the pancreas into the blood in response to increased blood glucose after you've eaten, after you've taken food. Insulin's action, it's activated the messenger that transport blood glucose into the cell, helps synthesize amino acids into proteins, and converts fatty acids into body fat. That's, a little refresher on your insulin. This is the picture that I live by in my mind. That picture's in my mind when I go to a patient, and I don't care what kind of patient they are. I have to put in my mind, where are you in the day? When have you had your last blood glucose check? When did you get your insulin? And when did you eat? Those things, if you look at this up, down, breakfast, lunch, dinner. If you can remember this, and here it is, your blood glucose, where you are, your meal, and how much insulin you're getting, you will definitely be able to kind of try to understand this new concept in your mind. These are the different types. This picture alone will help you do that quiz. How about that? There are a few tiny discrepancies when you look in the ATI book and you look at this, but you can ballpark it because I do understand there can be a few tiny discrepancies. We have rapid acting, we have short acting, long acting, and intermediate. There is one slide, let me see if it's here, yes. Mixing a dose. This is kind of a dated procedure, but you'll still see patients. Let's say you go into skilled nursing or you go into ambulatory care after you're done being a nurse, after you're licensed, and you see these different variations and you're looking at somebody's med plan and it says that they take 2 different types of insulins. This is just a way to do it. I know this is a test question because I've seen it several times. I may get rid of it because I don't think it is that important to know being tested on. But in the lab, we're going to do one of these like this. So mixing an insulin, you clean both vials because you're doing 2 types of insulin. You can't mix Glargines or Lantus. That's one thing. For me, I feel like it's important to know this on the surface, but generally as a nurse in today's date in the 2020s, you are going to be using an insulin pen or one single type of insulin. So just recognize that the insulin pens are solid, they're good, and they certainly are best practice. But this is, you check compatibility, the different onsets and peaks, which you'd see here. And this can kind of be like a little guide for you. And then you verify the premixed solution. It says clean both vials, inject air into the MPH, but don't touch the insulin. Inject air into the regular, withdraw your regular, then you withdraw your NPH. It is something we'll practice in lab, so don't be too, caught up on that. Have I already been talking for 50 minutes? I have, sorry. Take 10, guys, I'm sorry. Stop me, somebody be my timekeeper if I forget. Okay, guys. This is, it says storage and safety. Make sure you know this information before administering insulin in clinical. It has changed a little bit because we don't keep all their insulin after we've, administered insulin. We keep it in their in their room. It says store in a controlled refrigerator, and this is generally at home, but we keep it in their room and always label and date the vial, date and time the vial that was opened. But on the pens, there'll be a sticker on it. And if there's not a sticker on it, we put a sticker on it from the patient's chart. The vials, same thing. And we do have to know the expiration date on the label. After 8 days, the potency does decrease. But generally with insulin, they're small vials and there are They're ordered for patients that use that particular amount quickly. So also, you don't withdraw a vial from you don't withdraw from a vial that has a coating or crusting on the top, and you